Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-hosts, Matty B and Rick David. Messing around with the video again, trying to get Skype figured out. We had that stupid message show up. I tested like 4 different computers, and they all say speakers muted, so I assume it's some type of Skype thing. So I'm covering that up, but it messes up our alignment. But if you're listening at home, it won't affect you anyway. Going to kick right into it with high tempo this week. Matt, what do you got for us?
There was actually a summit today of school superintendents and athletic directors talking about continuing on our discussion from last week about the public and private schools. One of the things that if you've regularly listened to our show that I've complained about is the use of statistics. And when PIAA, the athletic Center for Pennsylvania, when they released their statements, their original paperwork that they showed statistics showed 3 different groups. It showed from like the 70s to I think 2008 to present, and then a third one that showed everything. And the issue with that is that a lot of the issues that we're seeing as far as the recruiting and the kind of the unbalanced side of the privates versus public schools is because it hasn't really taken it's gotten out of hand within the last 10 years. And so I think that's where, if they really want to show what the separation is, that's where they need to have that focus. And I think that the summit that they held today was starting to shine a little bit more light on that, of how biased things actually are.
I figured you'd be bringing that up almost every week now until football season starts. But I have nothing else to add. Rick, you weren't here. You have anything to add on that? Any comments on the public versus private schools?
I know I'm talking with 2 private school or public school students versus me. It was a private school student. So
I'm a public.
I mean, you could always say the recruitment line. I mean, it's there. I mean, is it hidden? Yes. Is it sometimes very well known? Yes. I mean,
it's not hidden.
I mean, it just depends upon which way you're looking at it. I mean, do I feel I was illegally recruited? Yes. Are you going to figure out how? No. I mean, it's that way. I mean, there were 3 of us on the same team. I'll give an example. Our coach was sitting in our high school coach. Well, we were still in 7th grade at that time. But our high school coach was sitting in the stands watching all 3 of us. I mean, it was dead obvious the 3 of us were probably going to go there, but So, I mean, is it true? Does it happen? Yes. Will it always happen? Yes. Is it happening in certain sports? Yes. Is it happening in football? Yes. Basketball? Yes. Is it happening in hockey? No.
Well, Rick.
And I'm gonna say hockey to a certain extent, yes, and to an extent. I mean, because if you're good enough, if you're the next Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, Tim Thomas, using some Americans versus Canadians, you're going to go play in one of these elite leagues and going to go get signed and everything. So, I mean, but can they still find the guys who are the 2nd, 3rd tiers? Yes. I mean, they're not going to get the 1st tiers because they're going to go.
Well, I would argue that point. Because I think hockey is the one that they are going to recruit to. Because my high school didn't have hockey. And I know a rival school started a team up. And they were actively poaching athletes from our school, trying to get them to come to try hockey. And just to help build numbers and get kids to recruit. And on the offhand, with that, then they would have that athlete for other sports, knowing that they were athletic and they could fit the bill. But for other sports, let's say were you planning on going private before that coach was there? Or were they actively recruiting to get you to jump from public to private, Rick?
At that time, I would say that all 3 of us were still undecided. I mean, but leaning towards private. I mean, out of my grade school of 65 graduates, I think 58 of us went private school who were already in a private grade school. So it wasn't many that went to the publics. So, I mean, was there a good chance? Yeah, because I have an older brother who went to that private school. So, I mean, so yes. I mean, it's easier for I will say my school had hockey where other schools like your school didn't. So we were getting kids from other school districts. We were getting kids from 40 miles away because their school district didn't have any. So we were able to get them because they were on the outskirts of our area. It was pretty much either play with us or you were going to go play with this, team that just was kind of starting. So, yeah. And it was happening like that. So I will say this, hockey is one sport, definitely. I know my high school right now currently has students from Russia, international students from Russia that are there. So, somehow Russian students end up here in my area, which is a depressed area according to different, industry surveys and everything. And that's going more towards the business side. It says we're a depressed area because our businesses went down and number of people employed, and all that junk. But is it weird for heck yeah? I'm not going to ask questions, but I can kind of know how they got there. But if you're that good and you're Russian, you would be playing in one of the Russian elite leagues. You'd be playing in the KHL or one of those other European leagues. Why are you coming to America, where our high school hockey is non-existent compared to Canada's, Europe, Russia, other places? So. You may not be good. You may be good in America, but are you good in Russian high school hockey?
Rick, are those kids coming as foreign exchange students, or are they coming with their families?
Foreign exchange students.
So by themselves. Okay.
By themselves. They're coming with families. We are not having a growth of Russian immigrants moving to my area.
I was just curious because that would make a big difference. But all right, we spent a lot of time on that last week. And I just want to get your thoughts since you were out, Rick. What do you have for high tempo this week?
Mine is the Manny Machado deal. So, you have trade seasons upon us. So, the Dodgers got what they needed. They needed a hitter in that lineup and everything. Please watch the Justin Turner, Alex Wood video where they're celebrating on a boat at knowing that they got Manny Machado. It's true. They needed a hitter. They needed one. They lost Seager. They needed an extra bat. They got it. And it's going to help out that lineup a lot. And they're going to make up room against the Diamondbacks, the Giants. And they got to try to go get that championship because, this is Dodgers' time to go win it. The NL is good, but not great. You have teams that are, Brewers were looking like a great favorite in the first half of the year. Now they just fallen off the map. They have a big free agent signing of Boone Logan. They cut him outright. He's a free agent right now. They're kind of just at a standstill right now. This is a team that's willing to make the change. They got rid of 5 prospects, so I think only 1 or 2 are going to make it. But I really see this trade helping them out. And if anybody's got the money to re-sign him with the Boris, client, it's the Dodgers. So if they want him, they can probably keep him too.
I'm glad you brought that up because we actually talked about that last week on the show. And I'm going to get your thoughts on the All-Star game here a little bit later after the Steel City update. But we pretty much knew it was certainly going to happen. And I just want to give a shout out to The Athletic, which if you're not aware is a new print publication. I think it's subscription only. They have an online website, but it's a lot of bigger names that used to be writing at ESPN and elsewhere. And they formed their own site. I don't know who's in charge of it, but they have reporters actively going and breaking news stories. So we talked about it based on their report last Tuesday. And then it was Thursday or something, Matt? Whenever I texted you that ESPN had just started to report it. So they were 2 days behind, and they're considered the leader in sports. So just a shout out. I know we're tough on other organizations, sports organizations, the major ones, when it seems like they're mailing it in, but it's refreshing. I know paid only some people that will turn some people off, but it's refreshing that they're expanding and excelling in an area where people didn't think sports journalism was going to be around anymore. Seemed like everything was dying. And go get it. Break the news then. Break the news and see what happens. But that's where I saw it first. And it was pretty much written like it was a sure thing. And it was pretty much happened exactly how they laid it out. So I wanted to bring that up. I was going to use that as my closing thoughts. But I'll just fit that in here. Moving along, got some college football stuff on the table for today. I just wanted to mention the Big Ten Media Days happened for My High Tempo, and Jim Harbaugh is calling for the playoff to expand. He went on record saying that he wants it to jump to 8 soon, and then potentially 16, and eliminate the conference game, the conference championship game. So I think it's a great idea. Everyone knows it's bound to happen. But if you get some high-profile coaches like that, where ESPN is already starting, that they bet that he's going to leave for the NFL in 2021 or something, some random year they picked, go ahead. Start to get your name out there. Put the year behind it. If you get some other high-profile coaches that want this to happen, like I would like to see Nick Saban step up next, since his team didn't even play in the conference championship. That's not needed. You don't even play half the teams from the other side. We're going to be much better off if they get to pods in college football, and that's going to happen if they deregulate that conference championship game. I know the ACC tried to deregulate it a few years ago, or if it was like a year or two ago, but it didn't happen. So we'll be talking more about that, but that's My High Tempo. Hopefully more coaches get behind it, and we get an expanded playoffs, because I think that's the only fair thing, and I think it's bound to happen. Getting into the mailbag, I know this is something you sent me to, Rick, but Antonio Brown on the face of Madden, cover of Madden this year. Do you think he will be hit by the Madden curse? Rick, since you text me unrelated, go first.
I texted you like 20 minutes after I saw like it was first reported, and I'm like, I had a thought that he could be it when they were saying it's just going to be one current athlete. It's not going to be somebody who's retired. And I'm like, dang, it could be. I had Todd Gurley, Antonio Brown, and then I had Odell Beckham possibly being my 3 that could be it. And when I saw it was Brown, I'm like, yeah, we're getting the curse. Do I believe in the curse? Yeah. Look at how many players got hit with it. Falk got injured that year. Culpepper got injured that year. There's a bunch of other ones. Peyton Hillis won it that one year, and he was he played the whole season, but he stunk that year. I mean, there were so many, ways to link it. Is the curse real? Well, the one year they put Ray Lewis on it because they asked like 10 athletes and they all refused. So I would say, is it real? Yes, because you can link so many players to it. Is a curse real? I don't know, but you could say, do you think there's a curse? Yeah, there's a trend there. Do I think it's going to hurt the Steelers? No, I think other things are going to hurt the Steelers. Big Ben, is he going to play 16 games? Le'Veon Bell, when's he going to show up? I mean, there's so many other things with the Steelers. Is this defense going to mesh? Ryan Shazier's not going to play this year, so is there a middle linebacker? I mean, you got too many other things to worry about, So, but
well, of course the baseball guy's going to believe in it. Matt, what about you?
And the video gamer.
I'll be honest. I don't think that it's going to happen. He's not a physical blocker. He's not. He's on the outside, and he's a more vertical threat. I don't being the physical blocker maybe that a Hines Ward was for Pittsburgh, that was willing to get in the middle and put himself in harm's way. A lot of the routes are geared towards him running fades and posts and deeper routes. So I kind of think it's a safe move because I don't missing out on any time due to it just because of the nature of the position.
I don't think he'll be injured per se, but his stats could drop. Like Rick said, if Ben Roethlisberger goes out, are you gonna have a backup quarterback? Like, they're not gonna play Mason Rudolph. It's highly unlikely that they throw him in there. So is Landry Jones gonna be able to get him the ball, or Dobbs, or whoever else we end up with on the roster? No, I think that's the only way that it would really affect him. Could he get hurt? Yeah, but not everyone gets hurt. So is it bad for the Steelers? No. Steelers don't usually get this kind of publicity. When was the last time the Steelers had a guy on Madden? Were they ever picked? I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think. I can think back through some of the other ones like you named, Rick. You also had like the famous Mike Vick cover. Tom Brady's been on it. and Sean
That was
Alexander.
the year he got injured.
They had dudes like Sean Alexander on over Jerome Bettis back in the day. So
Jerome Bettis was on the other game's cover.
The ESPN one that they shut off.
Not the ESPN, the other one before that. Oh, I'm going to think of it later.
I don't know. Yeah. People are probably tuning out, even though that I brought it up, the video game thing. But it was a question that I saw floating around. So we use that for the mailbag. We'll jump off into the Steel City update. I'll let you kick it off, Rick, with the Penguins stuff. You have any updates on the Penguins and what they're doing this summer?
They're kind of content with everything they're doing right now, so nothing much. They're signing some of their guys they've drafted through the years to 3-year contracts, but those are minor league stuff, so they're going to go play in Wilkes-Barre. So I think what they're trying to do is load that roster a little bit, especially with Sprong probably going to the NHL full-time next year. Tom Kasopoulos retired, so after 6 years in the minors, former Penguin back in 2002, 2003. So I think they're just trying to fill that roster out and everything. So I don't see anything, else outside of that. I mean, this is a time usually where you sign a guy to a 1-year deal, or you're signing your guys for the minor leagues and everything.
I think the big move that we missed a couple weeks ago was Connor Sherry and Matt Hunwick going to the Sabres. But other than that, I think they're pretty much set. Like I said, the big key is going to be, we talked about this when you were out, Rick, next year when you have all these guys. They didn't really move Kessel. So I don't know. I think the last 2 years, and I could be wrong on this, when the Penguins made a run and won the Stanley Cup, they made a move in season. So we'll see if that happens this year. But I think you're pretty much set with the lineup as it is. For the Steelers, training camp is starting. So we'll be having some exciting stuff coming up with that. I'm looking forward to it. My player to watch is going to be Mason Rudolph. Is he able to jump? And I said it like 5 minutes ago, I'm going to contradict myself. I want him to be the backup. I don't want to see Landry Jones out there. I don't want to see Dobbs out there. I know last year we were kind of pushing for Dobbs, but when you have what looks to be a better option, jump him. Actually, I wouldn't even mind him and Dobbs battling. I just want Landry Jones out. Get him out of the system, whatever it takes. Let's get him in. And then we're just waiting on Bell. Will he show up? But we're not the only team that's having problems. Julio Jones might not show up. I know, Matt, that's your guy. I told you. Rumors are he wants out down here in the South. Carolina's going to be going after him hard.
Well, I was saving that. I was saving that for my closing thought, but definitely he said he's not reporting to camp because I'm following this close for reasons. It's another one of those deals that you signed your contract, and it's unfortunate that other players used your contract to leverage more money. But I just find it difficult that you signed one of the most expensive contracts. And now here we are a couple years later, and now it's not good enough. And I hopefully that it resolves on its own because he is getting towards the tail end of his career. So I don't know. I think that it would be wise for him just to play it out and go from there.
Yeah, and to recap, because it sounded like you were breaking up there, Julio Jones signed a huge deal, a long-term deal. It was like the most money for a wide receiver at the time. Now other people are getting pushed ahead of him, and he wants that matched salary. But unfortunately, he already signed the contract. So think of it, and this is something that's going to be new, to put in terms or a comparison. It's sort of like the TV negotiation deals for college football. A lot of the big conferences, what they were trying to do is one-up each other. Someone signed, the SEC would then wait and say, well, hold on, we're more valuable than the ACC or the Pac-12. We need this much money. Then the Big Ten did it, and now they're the most paid. So it's kind of like whoever's getting paid last, they're going to get the most money. That seems to be how it is. So I wonder, this last cycle, the Big Ten, what they did was they shortchanged their deal and only signed a short-term deal, betting that they're going to be the next ones to come up for negotiations, and they can push it even further ahead. So will we start to see the big name players do that instead of signing these long-term deals? Le'Veon Bell turned down a 5-year deal. Would he have taken, what did he want, $16, $17 million a year? Would he have taken a 2-year deal at that price? Because it seemed like the Steelers were trying to front load that deal. They didn't want to give him as high as he wanted. But think about it. Running backs have such a short shelf life. That would seem like it would help the organizations more so than the players. So you got to be careful when players don't honor their deals, because you're going to set a bad precedent for new guys coming into the league. They're going to see, all right, they don't want to sign these long-term deals because the guys they watch growing up aren't signing them. What are the organizations going to do? They're going to start sticking at the players. And I would just say, be very careful, because if you're showing this, how many times has this worked out? I was trying to think, because I knew I was going to bring it up on the show. I figured you'd mention it too, Matt, but I figured we'd just mention it here since it's kind of a parallel with Le'Veon Bell. Both players think they're the best at their position, and they want paid like it. So what do you do? Like, when has this ever worked out? Contract negotiations where a guy is held out and then played for like 20 years. Because most of the guys that do that, I don't think they stick around that long.
Normally they don't, because the selfishness comes back to bite them, and the shelf life for the average NFL player isn't very long to begin with. So, I understand the player on the player side of make your money while you can, but from an owner's standpoint, they don't have to put a 5-year deal. You look at Ben's contract. What was it? 10-year, $100 million back when he signed it. I mean, it was a long-term deal that locked him in Pittsburgh. Could he have thrown some fits and done some other things? Yeah, he probably could have. But it looks favorably on his part now that he's been willing to negotiate his contract and work things out. Like, you're doing it during the time frames that the organization's willing to do it. You look at Pittsburgh; they're historically known for not handling contracts in season. So it's either get it done in the offseason, not getting done. And that's why maybe with the Le'Veon Bell situation, it is a little bit more pressing, because where other organizations may be willing to have those talks during the season and while things are going on, Pittsburgh just isn't one of those franchises. So it's a tip of the cap to them that they say this is when we're going to negotiate, and if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And you also
go ahead, Rick.
And you also look at it from this way, too. Every day that Le'Veon Bell's not there, you don't have to pay him. So if Julio Jones is there, they don't have to pay him. These teams make out money in the long term because they don't have to pay you if you don't show up. So they just get to hold the money and get to be greedy. And the thing is, you signed the contract. You're stupid. You signed the contract. And I mean, think about the quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford signed that huge one, a year or two ago? Think of how many good quarterbacks could have said, nope, I'm going to not play because Matthew Stafford, who's a little bit above average quarterbacks. I mean, Big Ben, Rodgers, Brady, Manning was still there. I mean, you have so many good quarterbacks that could have said, I want Matthew Stafford money. But the quarterbacks last a little bit longer than running backs, so I understand that. But the same token, you're in one injury away. Just ask Kajana Carter. You're one injury away from never playing again and being a what-if situation. And that's the thing, too. I mean, yeah, we could go pay you, but you can get injured first game of the season, and your career could be over.
That's why I think you should front load. Like what the Steelers offered Bell was smart, and I'm surprised he didn't take it. You take the guaranteed money up front, a large amount, you hire an accountant, you take care of yourself. If you get hurt and you're doing well for the city, now granted he had some off-the-field issues, but most likely that franchise is going to keep you around, I hate to say it, but for the PR. Look what they did with Shazier. They're keeping him around. Is it likely he's going to play football again? No. I mean, I would be shocked if he did. But what does that hurt the Steelers by keeping him around? It doesn't. Look at guys like Hines Ward, guys that were able to just extend their contract, stay in the league for a long time. Doug Flutie. You don't even have to be the big name. Doug Flutie stuck around forever, and now he's a commentator. Hines Ward, I think they do NBC or something. Even guys like Randy Moss that were kind of against the grain. You stick around the league long enough, I don't know if Moss ever held out, but he played for enough teams, finally straightening things out, where now he's on ESPN. So the longer you stay in the league, the more valuable your name becomes after the fact. Yeah, maybe you didn't get the top player money, but all those guys that get that and then flame out, where are they today? They're not the guys that are making extra money after their career, because at some point you have to think about it after you retire. That's why most players, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, are broke whenever they're done playing. No planning. They're fighting for the big contract that doesn't have the guarantees. Take the guaranteed money. Get your money's worth. That's all I'll say to end that. And we'll move on to the big topic today.
Well, there's one other thing.
Go ahead,
Rich,
Matt.
hold on one sec. Hold on. Gurley today signed a contract extension. He agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth a reported $60 million. Now, you take Todd Gurley into consideration, and when you look stat for stat with what Bell rushing yards Bell last season, receiving yards, more rushing TDs, more yards per carry, and he's 3 years younger than Le'Veon Bell. I think it was stupid that Bell refused that contract, and now seeing what Todd Gurley was able to get with the Rams, he's never going to get that kind of money. There's no way.
Well, I think that's where, and you broke up a bit there. You were saying
I think that's.
You were saying that Bell had the better stats than Gurley. Now he's seeing what Gurley signed for. Is he going to try to get?
No, Gurley had better.
Gurley had the better stats, and what he got 60.
Gurley's stats were better than Le'Veon's. Yes,
so
and he's 3 years younger.
60 for
it's
4 years,
$40 million in guaranteed money.
Mm-hmm.
And Bell had 70 for 5. So, I mean, it was a little bit less than what Gurley had.
Yep.
But even then, the 5-year deal is the outrageous part. It's still 5 years. I think his thing was that only 2 were guaranteed. But they're not going to give you, if they're only giving Gurley 4 guaranteed years, and he's 3 years younger, like Matt's saying, Bell's not going to get that. I mean, on the open market, it would be outrageous. They say the only person that at that age that had a contract like that was Adrian Peterson? That's like a once-in-a-lifetime running back. I don't think Bell's on that level.
Absolutely.
He's not as physical as Peterson. And you can come at me for that if you're a Steeler homer, but take off the glasses and think about it. He's more, like he's even said it, he's more than a running back because he takes stuff out of the backfield. He's more of a receiver, whatever, flex option. That's not what Peterson was. He was the workhorse that could take the ball every down up the middle. Bell doesn't, even though he gets outrageous amounts of touches, a lot of his are spread concepts where he's going towards the sideline or whatever. He's not taking the full front on hits. And he's still getting injured. So, I don't know. I think you take out the off-the-field issues, you still have the injuries. So either way, with one of those things, he's not going to sign for that. So that's a good comparison, Matt, with the Gurley thing. But I keep your eyes open because I just don't see him getting an offer. And if he does, like the Stafford thing, when you sign a big deal like that, you're going to really hamstring your team. And then what happens? Hamstrung your team, whatever the saying is.
I think the funny thing with that will be is if the season plays out, if he doesn't put the numbers up, if he wasn't satisfied with the contract he got now, going into free agency next year, there's a good chance that he's not going to see that same contract number if he doesn't put the production up. So now he's looking at even less money and running the risk of other teams not being willing to max him out and give him what he wants anyhow. So he may end up just taking less money next season anyhow, just to spite, his demands.
Well, what if he did, and man, this is going to hurt the Steelers, but what if he did a reverse holdout? Is there anything against that where, let's say, because his big thing is going to be stat production. So what's the Steelers' early schedule look like? Is it Browns? Someone like that. Like you play the weaker teams up front, I think. So what if he came out like gangbusters, played the first 3 games, averaged over a couple hundred, like 130 all-purpose yards in those 3 games, and then he said he pulled a Jadeveon Clowney at South Carolina where he's like, all right, you guys see what I can do. Now, Clowney couldn't sit on the bench because he was a college player. He just half-assed it, and everyone could see that he was just kind of standing there on most plays. What if Bell just said, yeah, I'm going to sit the rest of the season until we make the playoffs or whatever? And then, I mean, he might, if you really wanted to get his contract, just don't play in the playoffs then. Put your money where your mouth is. Sit out and show the Steelers that you deserve those. Because that's the best way right now. If he waits half the season, comes out flat, and doesn't get the stats, I mean, that's what's going to cost him if he sits out. That's why I don't see him sitting out. But if he came out in the first couple games, if he had a couple bad games, he just keeps playing. Never tells anyone he was planning to sit out the rest of the season. Comes out on fire, says, look what you didn't want to extend me. Now I'm just going to sit on the bench. I don't know if there's a Players Association rule against that, but what do you guys think on that? If he did the reverse holdout?
Well, I think you look at how bad people nailed T.O. to the cross for his antics. I think if Bell did that, it would almost be character suicide. That he'd be a selfish player, and I would be pissed if I was one of the other players on the team. I wouldn't be surprised if players on the team didn't just drag him out of his house and beat him. So I think if he has that kind of person and says, well, I'm sitting out because of my contract, I know if I was on him, I would beat his ass. Like, no, you're going to play or you're not going to walk.
The NFL already has a violence issue, Matt.
Exactly. So that's why I would fit in if I was on the team. Be like, well, here, I'll just shoot you right in the kneecap, and now we'll see what your value is. You can either run for us or you can sit out.
All right. Rick, what do you have? Any thoughts on this before we move on?
If he continues to hold out, he's already, the contract's already there. He has to play for the Steelers or they have to trade him. I mean, so he's kind of stuck. It's a rock and a hard place. So I think he's going to cry and play. Here's the other thing too. The thing that's not getting mentioned is the two guys that are, Connor looks in great shape from that video I saw of him, and the new running back, the draftee, I can never remember. Who says these guys don't have a great priest? Samuel. Who says they don't have a great? Samuel's going to be a beast
because he played that same role that Bell played down here at NC State. So he was kind of the same mold where he was able to get out of the backfield and do stuff with the ball.
So who says these guys don't get more touches in the preseason, look good with the offensive line? Because I will say this, the reason why Le'Veon Bell looks good, and the thing that doesn't get mentioned a lot is, do you realize that offensive line in front of him? I mean, I think I can gain 3 yards a carry even, maybe. I could fall forward and, get the 3 yards. But, I mean, come on, look at that offensive line. 3 guys went to the Pro Bowl last year out of 5. I mean, that's the other thing. Could Connor and Samuels look good with this offensive line? Yes, because they've 3 out of 5 are Pro Bowlers. So Le'Veon Bell is going to look good. So here's the thing. Okay, if he got at Cleveland, to Kansas City at home, go to Tampa, and then you come back home for Baltimore at home. So you have actually not too bad of a beginning schedule, but then you have the Falcons come here. So, I mean, your first 5 games, you're probably going to have 2 tough ones, but lucky enough, they're both at home. So, I mean, the thing is, you are playing some weaker opponents, but how much will Le'Veon Bell play if he holds out a lot of time? Because these two can get a lot of time in here. And I hope for heck they do great because I'm tired of hearing him cry about money. Tired of it. That seems to be the Steeler trend every offseason. Who's going to be the holdout guy again this year? I mean, it's a growing trend.
I'd rather see them spend money on the defensive and offensive line. But maybe I'm an old school guy and quarterback, but we already have Ben for right now. But,
we need a linebacker. That's what we need. We need a middle linebacker with Shazier out.
Nah.
Okay, apparently Matt's the,
I think you're fine with that. You needed more speed in the secondary is what we needed. Did you remember the Jaguars running all those crossing routes? I know you might have blacked that out like I did for the past few months, but you might have been
blacked out.
Yep.
But all right, let's jump on. We spent a lot of time on our intro stuff. The other big Steel City update, our main topic for this week, Pittsburgh Pirates, 10-game winning streak. I talked about, what was our challenge? who would have more wins at the end of the season. I think we all picked the Detroit Tigers. And then the Pirates decided to spite us and rip off 10 wins in a row. Rick, should the Jolly Roger be at half-mast right now? Or should we raise it?
Raise it. You're playing the Mets this weekend. They're awful. I mean, let's be honest. They're just what helped them out right now is they're playing so many bad teams in the month of July. I mean, this schedule set up for them in a way that they could do good and make a run. And it's nice to see the division is also imploding as well. Usually the Pirates are a part of the implode.
True.
We're not a part of the implode.
The Pirates should not be sweeping the Brewers in July. That should not happen.
No, and that's part of the problem is the Brewers are falling apart. I know the power rankings, I keep looking on everybody's website. The biggest drop for the past month has been the Brewers are out of it. And one of the biggest gainers is the Pirates. But again, the thing with the Pirates was for years they could never beat the teams they should. When the Brewers were the last place team, it was always like 6-5 we lost or something like that. And then for a while it became the Reds. The Reds were the team we couldn't beat. Now we're beating the bad teams. And that's helping your win so you can get in.
Well, let me add in here, Rick, some stats for the listeners at home. So the Pirates have, 62 games left. Most of them in the division. They have 28 games out of the division. And I think all of those teams, except for the Cleveland Indians, have losing records. So all they have to do, they have 9 games with the Brewers, who they just swept. If you go ahead and beat them, take the Cardinals they're battling with, so you have to beat them, and then just beat the other teams you're bound to beat, you're sitting right there for a wild card spot, only 4 games back. So go ahead. Those are the stats for the listeners at home if you're not following too close.
Yeah, and the thing is, you still got to play the Cubs. So the Cubs are on the schedule. I know you're going to see them at the end of July. Hey, at least we have a manager. Didn't realize the Cardinals. Oh, wait, they fired Maffini. Well, they fired Maffini. They fired Bill Miller. They fired John Mayberry. And you know what? The writing was on the wall. You play too many old guys, too many innings. You call up Ponce de Leon, who goes 7-0 strong, and he gets congratulations. Thanks for giving us almost a win, but our bullpen stunk and they blew it. And congratulations for throwing a no-hitter for 7. You just got optioned to Memphis. Well, have fun in Memphis.
Well, Rick, thanks for that reminder, but Yahoo, they need to make Ponce de Leon a starting pitcher so that I can insert him in my lineup, because Great Fantasy Guy is always one step ahead, picking up those guys. So that's a tip. Make sure he's on your team, because they're bound to switch him. He's listed as a relief pitcher. He'll be a big starting pitching ad because the Cardinals have no one. Let him get out there.
They'll probably add him that day and send him down the next. So who knows? Great work, Cardinals. Still having no clue what you're doing. An organization that was led by great minor leaguers and great understanding of the game, and you get rid of most of your front office. You lose them to teams like the Astros and the Brewers, and you get rid of guys like Tony La Russa who live and breathe baseball and will probably be buried on a field somewhere.
Oh, geez,
probably
isn't he 95 years old, Rick?
Yeah, and guess who hired him? The same team that hired Bill James and all the other guys who know baseball. It's the Red Sox. The Red Sox hired.
So the Red Sox are basically a baseball graveyard, is what you're saying.
Graveyard of geniuses. Yes, they can read better than the other teams can read. They have a great scouting system. They understand it, and trust me, with their analytics side, they're also their Moneyball side, and plus their old guy knowledge that they have old relics that just understand the game, can see guys who can play the game. Jim Rice is a part of that.
Their Moneyball side is just them spending $100 million on each guy. They're like the Yankees now. I don't know why you're in love with them. Theo Epstein was the guy. He's with the Cubs now. And he proved it by winning another World Series. Has the Red Sox won one since he left, Rick?
Theo Epstein got lucky. Let me tell you how. Because his previous management before him tore the house down. And what Theo did was tear it down to the whole entire ground. And you have stupid teams out there like, oh, yeah, we'll trade with the Cubs. We'll give them all of our top prospects, and we'll take some jabroni who's not even going to last probably the rest of the year.
Rick, Epstein took 2 teams that were cursed. that haven't won a championship in 100 years and let them both win. I would be so pumped if he came to the Pirates. You couldn't tell me that you wouldn't be excited if he came here.
He wouldn't be allowed to spend any money, though, so it wouldn't matter.
No.
Clearly, you hit the nail on the head. Chicago spent money. Boston spent money. And then he'd come to Pittsburgh, and he'd have to just sit there with a hot dog.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all he'd have to...
What's he going to sign? Free agents? No,
he'd have a coleslaw sandwich with fries on it.
Oh, so we're talking about
no? You'd have to split. Wouldn't even get it free.
I don't know. What do you think, Matt? Cardinals and Pirates are going to be battling it out.
Well, I think if Pittsburgh keeps playing, they should have a shot at the wild card. But I think Rick hit the nail on the head. They're playing a lot of really bad teams. So what's it going to be? They're going to be one and done. They'll make the wild card, maybe, and they get in, and then they'll play someone that actually has good players, and they'll be done. It'll be a typical Pittsburgh year. Make the playoffs, get October, everyone will be excited. They'll go in, they'll lose their game, and then they'll be done.
Well, I got to say,
watching the playoffs like everyone else.
I got to say, on this side, the Pirates, the true Pirate fans, are pretty mad on social media. If you're looking at the Pirate posts and reading the comments, because a lot of fans think that there's a boycott, and that's why the stadium is pretty empty on this run. That's not really what it is. No boycott. I guess some newspapers up there have been saying that there's a boycott from fans no matter what happens. It's just the fact that we've seen this over and over again, like Matt says. They might not even make the playoffs. They'll get close. They'll do their Bucktober marketing push. And then what will happen? They said they're going to add someone here. Who are they going to add? Other teams are making moves. The Machado move happened, as we predicted. What's next? What will the Pirates add? They have no... I think the stat that I saw, the advanced metrics that Major League Baseball does now, their WAR, their wins over replacement, every playoff team has had a guy like near 4 or something. They have no one. No one even close. And that goes for pitching and hitting. I think the MLB stat was you had to at least have one pitcher and one hitter. Pirates have neither. So don't get too excited. If you don't have the guys, it's kind of like the college football thing, where we know historically for a team to win the national championship, they have to have top 10 roster talent. And you can get all excited. We talked about the SB Nation article last week, Rick, where everyone was talking about how Penn State's going to make a run. They don't have the talent. They don't have top 10 talent yet. So the same thing's here with Pirates. You can make a run because you're playing bad teams, but if you don't have the talent to win in the playoffs, you're going to be bounced. Who are you going to go to? Remember the Diamondbacks when they won? They had Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson. You knew they had a chance to beat the Yankees to take them down. Same with the Marlins when they had Livan Hernandez. The Pirates have no one like that. So I don't know. Nothing's going to happen. Speaking of that, Rick, I did leave on here All-Star Game. What are your thoughts on the All-Star Game? And I did count it. What did they end up with? 10 home runs?
Mm-hmm.
Was that last week? Almost every run except for one, I think it was a sacrifice fly, came on a home run. You can't tell me they're not juicing the balls. They are juicing the balls. Or my theory is they might not be juicing them, but you can make the threads tighter, the seams, I mean. So the seams are raised, and that's how pitchers can throw different pitches. If you make the seams tighter so they're not as high, they don't catch as much air, you're still going to be able to get some break on the ball, but it will be faster movement. So a slider might not move as much, but it will be a tighter movement, and I think it would be harder to hit. I think that's why you're seeing more strikeouts and also more home runs, because pitchers can throw a little bit faster, but it also means the ball can travel a little bit further. So that's my theory, Rick. What are your thoughts on the All-Star Game and stuff? I know you wanted to mention it.
I mean, I like the All-Star Game. I mean, you did see a lot of solo home runs, but it's also a trend in baseball, too, is wait for the perfect pitch to be thrown and everything. So, I mean, you have a lot of guys who are taking strike one, and it's down the middle. I keep seeing that repeatedly on different games when you watch StatCast. Instead of where years past where you had the Tony Gwynns and the Wade Boggs and people like that, Mark Grace even, who would just swing if that was there. I mean, Mark Grace. By the way, great
three guys I wouldn't think to be swinging away. Tony Gwynn was known to take some pitches, dude.
if he saw strike one down the middle, he wouldn't wait. He would go for it.
True.
I mean,
true on that one.
True story here. You want to guess who had in the 90s who had the most hits? You wouldn't guess it. It's Mark Grace is the answer. Mark Grace led the 1990s in hits. So there's a weird trivia question there. I mean, those guys are what you're not seeing the higher batting averages where it's consistent swings and getting the singles and everything. Those guys aren't existent because it's power and trying to hit the ball out to the moon and back and everything. That's why you see teams moving in fences. Astros, Brewers have, Mets have. I mean, look at new Yankee Park compared to old Yankee Park. The fences are in a lot more. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's more built on the home run ball, and that's what draws fans in. And you could look at the Pirates and say, well, there's no real, they don't have a Judge or a Trout or Gary Sanchez or, these big power hitters or anything. So that's not drawing fans in. Again, Pirates fans have seen the story and see it again. And the thing is, it stinks when you're in a town and you're the third child of the family because big Steelers are going to sell out every game. Penguins are going to sell out every game. And, Pirates obviously aren't. Are the Pirates going to trade for somebody? Yes, I have already read the one rumor I saw. Kean Kalehu, who is the closer for the Rangers, is now rumored to be traded because he's in a free agent year. So, I mean, that makes sense. You can give up a low-level prospect, probably some guy that's probably playing in the West Virginia Power, could get traded over to Texas to get him. And, I mean, you also look, guess who else got bigger and bolder? We made the Yankee jokes. Yankees just got Zach Britton. So he's gone. So congratulations, Oriole fans. You lost your two favorite stars. So Zach Britton to the Yankees. John Heyman's reporting it. It's pretty much a done deal. So kudos to them. They're going out and getting what they need. They need another bullpen pitcher from the left-hand side. They're stealing what the Indians and Cubs did. They're bolstering up your bullpens.
I did see that the Pirates, they're like 22-1 if leading after 8 innings, and like if they're leading after 7, it's like much higher or something. I might have that backwards. It might be 22-1 after 7, and like 43-1 or something after 8. I'll have to find that stat and I'll tweet it out. So just there for a lot of people, I've been talking about how bad the Pirates bullpen is. Usually they're getting lit up if they're already losing. So if they have the lead going in late, they have been able to win, and they've done so pretty outrageously. So something to keep an eye on there. Let's move on from baseball. We'll be looking at them. We'll check back in, because when's the deadline, Rick? Is it
31st?
31st, last day of July. So what's today? It'll be right around the show next week. So we'll find out if they're going to make a move, and we'll be revisiting that next week whenever we come on. The other big topic, college football, Matt. I put this in as our ending topic. Plus, if we had any extra time, any other college football media day stuff. But Larry Fedora of the University of North Carolina down here, the Tar Heels, has come out against CTE. Now, he says that the game of football is under attack. He says he thinks that, this is a quote from him, "I fear the game will be pushed so far from what we know, it won't be recognized in 10 years, and that's kind of paraphrased. And if it does, our country will go down too." So he's questioning the evidence tying CTE and football together. He said he's not seen anything that proves football causes CTE. And for the show, since I'm down here, I went ahead and did a little bit of investigating, talking to some doctors and some people that work at the University Hospital down here in North Carolina. And dude, did they think Larry was laughable. They have no idea what he was thinking to come out with this stance, because they said that they have proof at the campus of UNC, where they've been studying CTE, that there is a connection to sports that have head trauma, not just football. So a point in his defense, it's not just football, but football is one of the ones where it's more prevalent. If you played football, you have a greater chance for it. And I don't know. I don't know why he brought this up. I didn't see the clip. Of course, it was headlines everywhere. I don't know if he was trying to get his name out there or if he was trying to... I guess you're not really sabotaging yourself. I don't see how this helps recruiting any. But I'd like to get your thoughts, Matt, as a coach. I know we talked about it. And you're an ACC guy, so what do you think?
I mean, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked a lot about this at different points of our shows. But I do think that people really are using football as a way to push a political agenda of trying to care about the CTE issues. No one's bringing them up, women's basketball, men's basketball, hockey, where boxing, MMA, where you're having literal punches to the head and where you're not having as much of the protective gear that football is willing to put into place. I think when you see some of the things that people have done, like going more towards the traditional, or I guess the newer with the Seattle Seahawks hawk tackling, with starting to use things like the tackling donuts, you're not seeing is they've gotten rid of a lot of the drills, like for those of you who aren't football either players or fans, they got rid of the drill bull in the ring in a lot of programs, where essentially it was just two players just basically ramming each other head to head. A lot of that stuff is eliminated. I know even within my own program, it's not a drill that we do. The amount of actual hitting that we do is minimal to try to keep people as healthy as possible. I think with what Fedora was saying, I think football is under attack because when they say it, they don't say athletes across all sports. It's specific to football. And I think that's where it's an issue. That's where I have an issue, is because you're saying only football players suffer CTE. No one brings up anything else related to it. No one is holding any players hostage. You're not holding a gun to anyone's head saying you have to play football. It's totally a voluntary thing. Everyone knows the risk when they put the helmet on of the potential of CTE. Just like someone would say, if you're a boxer, you're probably going to get punched in the face at some point. Like, that risk going in. If you didn't want that, then you wouldn't do it. And I think that's where he was trying to make his point.
Well, that didn't disappoint at all. I knew you'd be right in Larry's corner there, sticking up for the guy.
Shut up, ass. What are we going to talk on here if football goes away?
Well, I will say
about walk-up music for minor league baseball players.
Speaking of, Rick, did you ever have any bites for that?
No, I didn't. I tried tweeting it out a couple times.
All right. Well, I will say, back to the football thing, not to embarrass Rick anymore. The thing, Matt's right. There are injuries in other sports. I think the image with football is it is political. What are they going to do? Change the helmets. It's right there. It's right there for the taking. Go back to the leather helmets. Rugby doesn't use helmets. Could you imagine? Matt, you're laughing. But what? Everyone right now is all over NBA players for social media and all kind of other marketing stuff. Look at how much money they make on the side. And one of the big arguments against why football players don't get that is because fans don't get to see their face. If you take away the helmets, now you're watching a stunning man, Tom Brady, drop back. And his wife...
Then why don't we just play flag football? We can show off his dad bod.
No, because...
You really highlight all those beefcakes that you're talking about last week. If this is what Larry Fedora is talking about. You're already talking about getting rid of helmets. Well, if you get rid of the helmet, then you got to get rid of the shoulder pads, and next thing you know, you're playing flag football.
No.
It's not what you signed up for.
No, you keep the helmet, or you get rid of the helmet. You keep the other pads because, what they'll do is they'll go to a clear, get rid of the face mask type helmet that hockey has. Because if you have a plexiglass thing that bends in front of your face, you're not doing a spear tackle. And you could theoretically still see your face. I think you could argue that a lot more people know what Sidney Crosby looks like than other people around the league. Like, let's say, random wide receivers that are big in other markets. Like, I would assume that they would know who Sidney Crosby is even if that's not their city. Like people in
I would
Dallas.
agree with you if this was 1902, in an era of social media, and where during every broadcast, every national anthem protest, everyone's face is plastered all over everything. Don't give me the bullshit that, oh, we don't know what the players' faces look like. Jesus Christ. Every time you turn around, they're showing their face or something going on with them. Are you out of your mind?
I'm just saying.
Let me put on my phonograph for you and listen to some of my records. We'll send out use my Morse code.
Matt, if you want football to quit being under attack, you have to make some changes. These are the changes I'm laying out. Make faces visible so we can see the players. And then you'll see some big hits. Players will still hit right. And actually you'll see a lot more fancy moves and things like that. The shiftier players that aren't getting destroyed and injured, because injuries will go down if you're not having the big head-first collisions. So,
are you kidding me?
Rick, what do you think?
Look up.
Because me and Matt aren't going to agree on this.
The way to make injuries go away, you got to redesign the helmets, the pads, and everything. I mean, you look at hockey. When hockey used to at one time, you could pick any helmet to wear. I mean, they used to make fun of Wayne Gretzky's helmet because it was like nothing. There was no padding. But then you looked at Yager's and Lemieux's at one time,
and theirs was all mullet.
It was like a helmet. It was like an NFL helmet compared to what these other guys were wearing. And you look at your tough guy enforcers. In the NHL, a lot of them aren't with us anymore. I mean, Rippon's dead, McCarthy's dead. Bob Probert's dead. I mean, a lot of those guys that were fighters, enforcers, they're gone because they had too much trauma and everything, and it led to other problems in their lives. I mean, for football to change, it's got to change mentally, and it's got to change not so much. That's the problem. It's the problem. The same problem with hockey is the same problem with football. Is you have these old grizzled vets who think we got to run things like 1974, and people are going to come because we do things like 1974. I mean, hip pads aren't worn. I mean, you have guys wearing the wrong shoes, guys wearing the wrong pads. The guys that aren't, you may say you're great, healthy. You could show me you have like a muscle-bound bodybuilder body. But, I mean, look at David Boston. Remember him at the end? He was like pretty much looked like, Mr. Olympus. But the guy, they took out his legs, boom, he blew out his knee and he was done. I mean, you could look great, but if you're not in, good shape and you're wearing too much weight on your body and you're not wearing the right pads, you're stupid. So, I mean, you gotta think about your own self, your own health, and people aren't going to go play football. I mean, people aren't playing football for a reason anymore at younger ages because they hear about these injuries. They hear that you can. Heck, I typed in Justin Strelzik just for an example about 2 weeks ago. You could still see his crash, and he was known to have CTE. His crash is still online, which I'm like, okay, I'm surprised this is here. But, I mean, he crashed, and it was a fireball crash in his truck that he was speeding in. I mean, so the mentality of football is never going to change. You're going to have constant viewership go down. The protests aren't helping. And, and you're going to have people wondering, and you're going to have somebody permanently injured again on the field. Dennis Byrd happened, but eventually you're going to have somebody else too. So, and that's what's going to happen.
Well, Rick, that's
J.R.
like a
Smith is probably
turn.
going to come drunk to a game with like Hennessy is probably going to be your problem, in the NBA. So who cares? But you're probably going to have, that's the problem. And that's the problem that's going to happen with the NHL too. There's going to be some negative problem. Yes, I know. I threw in J.R. Smith and Hennessy. Pretty much watch any partying video with him. It's that.
Well, Rick, you had to take a depressing turn with that. All you had to say was that you agree with me, and then we could have attacked Matt. You don't have to sit there and go and to talk about people wrecking their cars in fiery crashes. Look.
But it's true. It's true. There's CTE problems that's led to people. People have committed suicide. There's been the Justin Strelzik thing that he had. I mean, you had Junior Seau. What did they find? They found him at the bottom of a cliff, wasn't it?
No, he shot himself in the chest and had a note that
right.
he wanted to be whatever
That's
examined.
Right.
But see, Rick,
they found him in the desert, though.
They don't have the research. You're never going to have 30 years of research. Yeah, you can look back and say, okay, old football was bad. What are we doing to address it? We got these new helmets. Now we have to wait 30 years to find out if they actually work. We've talked about sports dying. Fedora said about sports going away, and Matt was agreeing that the sport of football would change if you did something drastic like that. But look what happened to boxing. If you don't change it, it's going to fade away anyway. And it's not just the only sport. Look what happened to the Triple Crown winner, the jockey. His horse died on the track, and he ended up breaking his neck like this past week or two ago. So any sport is dangerous. Doesn't matter what you do. Boxing has the research that says if you're wearing a helmet, because if you remember the Olympic boxing made them wear like those padded helmets, they had research that said any restriction of your head, the skin or whatever, the muscles around it, your skull, there's obviously not scientific talk here, but if you look it up, they have research that says any constricting there actually makes it more prevalent for concussions because you're giving less breathing room for your skull. When you do get punched, your brain's just jingling around in there and the helmet's kind of holding it in place. So why would a football helmet be any different? Just get rid of them. You don't see kids playing out. I guess we don't have the research, so it doesn't matter. You could say, well, rugby guys, if they don't wear helmets, do they have concussions? I mean, we don't know. Get the research out there, and then that's an easy fix. Let the guys play. They're not going to switch it automatically to flag football because you're still tackling. Rugby still tackles. That's more physical than football, and you have to have a better skill set to tackle that way. You just do. You're not going to be slipping down. You're not going to get any of the guys just diving. Look at what people made fun of Deion Sanders for just pushing people out of bounds. But that's a whole nother skill set to get people out of bounds or on the ground without delivering that big hit. And you can play for a very, very long time like Deion did. And look, he's not having any issues. So other players just have to take notice. You need a star like that where people can point to. But what happened? I remember growing up, people made fun of Deion Sanders for doing that. And even though he was a stud athlete and everyone respected him, they still laughed that he wasn't getting any big hits in. Deion Sanders, yeah, he'll just push out of bounds. That was like the big joke for people that are young listening to this. So that's my final thing on that. My other thing, that my final bell, the other backup I had was the jockey getting hurt, but I guess his horse now died on the track and he was thrown from it, broke his spine. I don't really have anything else from Media Day since I threw it up early. College football media days were going on. There was some weird stuff, some teams promoting different things, and some coaches kind of on the hot seat, but we'll save that for next week. Let's get into the final bell. We'll go with you, Rick. What do you got? Anything to wrap up this week?
We got the trade deadline coming up here in baseball, so it should be a good time to see who's buyers and sellers. Obviously, we know the Orioles are definitely sellers. I think the other thing to look forward to is we do have training camps opening up. Some already did. Ravens are already in there. So, I mean, it's nice to see they got first in something this year. So congratulations, Ravens, because you're probably looking at third place because we have the Browns. But that's pretty much it. So it's going to be a good time here. So see who gets traded, see what minor league prospects go, see how teams load up here. So Orioles are looking like a team loading for the future. So let's see if that helps them out like it did with the Cubs and Astros and Brewers, teams of the past. So it's going to be something I'll keep an eye on. And hopefully the Pirates keep winning. And, and I looked at this. This is a crazy thing. The September schedule for the Pirates. So if they actually make a run is like Miami, Kansas City, Reds, Braves, who are surprising this year. I mean, those are some of your teams at the end who you're going to be playing. Milwaukee's in there too. I forgot Milwaukee. So, I mean, those are a lot of teams out there for you. And the video game Jerome Bettis was on the cover of NFL Game Day. NFL Game Day. Forgot about that.
Yeah, we had a fan write in, Vic. I don't know if that technically counts as a Steeler because he was on as a Falcon.
He was a Falcon and he got injured that year. Now, there was a Steeler that was on They did the Fitzgerald Paul Malu cover, so they did 2 players because no one person wanted on. But if you remember correctly, Paul Malu did get injured that year too. So a lot of injuries with it. Somebody was on the cover. I think he only missed like 2 or 3 games that year.
Well, I wasn't sure if they were saying that Vic might count because he later played for the Steelers.
I don't think that counts because, so many. Marshall Faulk played, he got injured. But Dante Culpepper bounced around after he got injured on a cover. So, that's grasping at straws, I think. So, I'm going to say it's more of the players during that season. It's during that season that they have the injuries and everything. So, that's what I'm looking at because players get so often injured with different teams and everything. So.
And just a note for the people that are listening to the audio only, Rick is wearing a Diamondbacks hat. And I have on good authority from one of the GMs for a Pirates minor league team that Rick shows up to the games and never wears any Pirates gear or organizational gear. They said he's always there shilling the other team. Rick, anything to say on that?
Anybody who knows me knows my agenda, knows my priorities. So usually when I go for the other team. I usually go and talk to the players, maybe get some autographs beforehand. I know you could see the Slapshot guys are behind me, so that's what my thing is. I know people say, I don't have team loyalty and everything. Trust me, the amount of money I have spent on Pirates and Pirates minor leagues, trust me. I even went to different places to go see these guys play and everything, so I think I've been to every minor league affiliate except for 2 stadiums in their system. No, 3 Bristol. I forgot their team. But, so yeah. So, whatever. That's the joke. People see me, so let's say Brewers are going to play the Pirates. I'm wearing Brewer stuff. Has nothing to do with the boycott of Facebook, which I believe is a joke. It's a farce. I think it's really just a way for people to cry. People like crying in Pittsburgh. It happens a lot. Le'Veon Bell's the biggest crybaby there is right now. But but yeah, I think that's how it is. So, but it's all about your agenda. Remember, that's what we talked about. CTE doesn't exist. I want more money. My name's Le'Veon Bell. It's promoting your agenda. That's what I'm doing. That's my final word.
I'm just busting balls. Matt, what do you have for your final bell?
One of the things that I had read recently with some of the rule changes in NCAA football, I really like the fact that they were changing some of the restrictions as far as how many games you can play while redshirted. I think that's a really nice move on NCAA's part to counter a lot of the players that are deciding to opt out of like bowl games and late season games because they don't want to hurt their draft stock. So I think that that's a good thing so that you can kind of get a feel for, maybe some of those blue players, get them some game experience where you can get some tape on them to see how they perform under game situations. So, if you have a Christian McCaffrey situation where he decides not to play, you can potentially play a redshirted running back in his place to see what he can do and not have to worry about losing that redshirted year. And I think that's a good move, and it's something that can help teams going into the next couple seasons for NCAA football. So that's going to be something to watch when we hit bowl season.
Yeah, I wasn't going to try to add in, but I will add some stuff here because that's a good point, Matt. So the old redshirt rule, I think, was 4 games. You had to play in the first 4 of the season. And if you did play in those 4, you had to get hurt for you to be able to keep redshirting or something. It was a weird rule like that. Now they're saying that you could play in 4 games without the injury restriction, and they could be any time in the season. And I'll tell you who this helps. This helps teams like Rutgers, Pitt, even NC State down here, where you're getting 3-star recruits mostly, possible a 4-star too. But now you can have these guys coming in as 2-star, 3-star that were rated lower because maybe they don't have the body yet to play at college. Maybe they come 30 pounds underweight. You, instead of having them rush through their first semester bulking up, Now they can put on weight. As a coach, you can tell these new guys, hey, I know school's hard, but if you keep working, we're going to get you some minutes here later in the season. A team like Rutgers that might only have a couple of wins, like let's say there's a blowout game late, which they've been playing in. Now you can get these guys, these freshmen, bulked up, get some weight on them, get some game speed. You're in one of these blowout games, like what was the Michigan one? It was like in November a few years ago. I think it was like 78-0. Play these freshmen then. Who cares? Let them get some game speed reps, and you can give them kind of like the carrot and the stick. All right, now you're here. Instead of flaming out because a lot of new incoming students have a tough time adjusting, instead of trying to get them up to snuff so they're ready to play in that first game against the Citadels of the world, now you're able to say, all right, don't rush. Work on your school. Work on learning our system. We can throw you in later in the season, whether it's a bowl game, get you some reps there, or you can kind of pick and choose any blowout game. Most likely, I would say every college team has at least one or two blowout games they're involved in late in the season against Power 5 schools. So now you're able to say, all right, this game got out of hand. Let's get some of our guys in there, even if it's the last 2 minutes. So it's something that I like, and it doesn't really hurt people. And now, like I said, you can focus more on academics, or if you're injured in training camp, now you're not kind of like in the midst of waiting and having the red shirt. Now you can still get your game reps and still red shirt. So it's good all around. But we're going long, so we'll end it with that. Thanks for watching. Follow us, Southbound Sports, on Facebook and Instagram, S-Bound Sports on Twitter. If you have any comments, go ahead, reach out to us. I got to work on setting the buttons and stuff up on Facebook to make sure you can send comments there, or you can put them directly on the video like we got the Mike Vick one during the show today. So definitely reach out. Thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next week.